Welcome to this explainer. Whenever we accidentally prick a finger or scrape a knee, we just see that familiar drop of red liquid. But honestly, calling blood a red liquid is completely underselling one of the most mind-blowing systems in nature. Seriously, we shouldn't think of blood as just a fluid. It's more like a bustling, microscopic metropolis. We're talking about a highly organized highway system packed with delivery fleets, a dedicated security force, and rapid emergency responders, all working together in perfect sync to keep you alive. So today, we're decoding that metropolis. We're going to break down exactly what is happening inside your blood right now, layer by layer, and uncover the incredible biology that makes it all possible.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because the very first thing we need to understand is that blood, well, it isn't mostly made of cells at all. Surprise! Over half of your blood, about 55% of its total volume actually, is plasma, which is predominantly just water. The remaining 45%, that's where you'll find all the other intricate components we usually associate with blood. And it's this massive volume of liquid that allows the entire system to flow effortlessly throughout the thousands of miles of vessels inside your body.
Now, to actually see this metropolis clearly, we have to spin it down in a machine called a centrifuge. The sheer centrifugal force basically unpacks this dense fluid. It drags the heavier cellular components straight to the bottom, separating them from the liquid. And what we're left with are distinct, really understandable layers.
So, here is our roadmap for today. First, spinning down your blood. Then, red cells, our delivery fleet. After that, white cells, the security force. Next up is plasma, the liquid highway. Then platelets, the emergency responders. And we'll wrap it all up with the clotting cascade.
All right, Section 1, spinning down your blood.
Moving right along to Section 2, red cells, our delivery fleet.
So that heaviest layer that sinks right to the bottom of our spun-down sample, those are the red cells. And these are some remarkably specialized cells. They are actually produced continuously inside your bone marrow at a staggering rate of roughly 2 million per second. 2 million! Every single second. Visually, they look like these tiny disc-shaped cells, and their entire existence is optimized for one single job: transporting oxygen throughout your body. To pull this off, they've evolved a truly radical design. They literally toss out their own nuclei and organelles. Think of a delivery truck just ripping out its own engine just to fit more cargo in the back. That is essentially what a red blood cell does. Its inside is completely packed with a red pigment called hemoglobin, and that's the stuff that actually binds to the oxygen.
And the way this hemoglobin works, it's just wonderfully elegant. It reacts entirely to whatever environment it finds itself in. So when these red blood cells arrive in your lungs, where the oxygen concentration is super high, the hemoglobin automatically grabs onto that oxygen to form a compound called oxyhemoglobin. Then, as the blood flows to places where oxygen is running low, like, say, you're working muscles when you're exercising, it just lets go. It's a totally seamless drop-off mechanism. It senses that low oxygen environment and instantly releases its cargo exactly where your body needs it the most.
Next up, Section 3, white cells, your body's security force.
Moving just slightly up our separated blood sample, we hit the white cells. Now, if red cells handle the logistics, white cells are your aggressive security force. They're out there actively hunting down intrusive bacteria and dangerous viruses. Visually, they are drastically different from those red blood cells we just looked at. For one thing, they're typically about twice the size. And secondly, unlike those completely hollowed-out red cells, white blood cells feature a very large, prominent nucleus. They absolutely need this complex cellular machinery because their jobs require some really active, complicated responses to sudden threats.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can actually tell the two most numerous types of white blood cells apart just by looking at their nuclei. On one side, we've got phagocytes. These guys feature an irregular, almost kidney-shaped nucleus. On the other side, we have lymphocytes, which are much smaller white cells overall, but they pack a massive, perfectly spherical nucleus that takes up almost the entire inside of the cell.
And this visual difference really hints that they're entirely different tactical strategies for neutralizing invaders. Phagocytes, they're the brute force of the immune system. Their cytoplasm can actually extend outwards to physically engulf and then literally digest bacteria, cell debris, and harmful substances. Lymphocytes, on the other hand, are more like the tactical intelligence unit. One of their main gigs is producing specialized proteins called antibodies. These antibodies circulate and precisely bind to specific pathogens. They either destroy them directly or they act like a laser targeter, marking the invaders for absolute destruction by those brute force phagocytes we just talked about.
All right, section 4, plasma, the liquid highway.
Making up that massive 55% of your total blood volume, plasma is the ultimate highway. Because water is such an incredible solvent, it transports a spectacularly diverse range of cargo to exactly where it's needed. I mean, it's not just carrying those red and white blood cells around. Plasma dissolves and transports vital mineral ions, carbon dioxide waste, nutrients from your food, chemical messengers like hormones, those defensive antibodies from your lymphocytes, and even waste products like urea. It is just a remarkably efficient, non-stop conveyor belt.
Moving right along, Section 5, platelets, the emergency responders.
But what happens when this incredible highway actually gets damaged? Well, to understand the value of these tiny colorless cell fragments, which, by the way, are also produced in your bone marrow, just look at the high stakes of a world without them. If platelets weren't constantly patrolling your blood, even the tiniest cut or scrape would simply keep bleeding. The wound would stay completely open. And not only does that risk severe blood loss, but it leaves a gaping door in your body's armor. It makes it incredibly easy for aggressive pathogens to bypass your skin and enter the bloodstream directly. We absolutely have to have an immediate, localized mechanism to seal that breach.
Which brings us to Section 6, the clotting cascade.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because this isn't just some simple patch job. It is a rapid, dramatic chemical cascade. Step 1. Physical damage occurs to the blood vessel wall. Instantly, moving to Step 2, platelets recognize this damage and rapidly clump together at the site, forming a physical plug that can immediately block off smaller capillaries. But they don't stop there. In Step 3, these activated platelets start acting like a chemical alarm system, releasing a highly reactive substance directly into the surrounding plasma.
So the crucial point is what that reactive substance actually does. Floating in your plasma at all times is a completely inactive protein called fibrinogen. It just travels along the liquid highway, dissolved and waiting. But the second that reactive substance from the platelets hits, it triggers local enzymes to instantly convert that completely inactive, soluble fibrinogen into a totally different, insoluble molecule called fibrin. It miraculously transforms from a dissolved liquid state into solid structural threads right before your eyes.
And this brilliantly illustrates the final phase. Those solid threads of fibrin weave together to form a dense, branching net right across the wound. As the blood tries to escape through this net, those large, disc-shaped red blood cells we learned about earlier, they become physically trapped in the mesh. This combination of the fibrin net and the trapped red cells quickly builds up, forming a solid clot. It is a masterful piece of emergency engineering that permanently stops further blood loss and completely prevents any external pathogens from sneaking into your bloodstream.
It really changes how you look at a simple drop of blood, doesn't it? It isn't just liquid. It's a finely tuned, bustling machine. So I want to leave you with this thought to ponder today. What silent microscopic battles and miraculous structural repairs are tirelessly happening inside your own body at this exact second? Every single time your heart beats, this massive, complex metropolis is rushing through your veins. It's keeping you alive, it's fighting off invaders, and it's patching up damage without you ever having to even ask it to. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a brand new appreciation for the incredible biology happening right beneath your skin.